Welcome back to another EDH deck tech. This is my Niv-Mizzet Parun deck. This is another legend that I just fell in love with. I just really like dragons, and I just really liked the interaction that you have with this card, and the fact that it's always triggering off opponents as well as yourself. So there's a lot of value to have, a lot of drawing cards and a lot of dealing damage, which I love. So this is a combo deck. It's kind of ranged a lot in power level. I've kind of intentionally made it the power level that I generally play around. There are a lot of changes that you can make to kind of increase that power level if you want. But yeah, I've definitely played with the kind of free counter spells kind of level. But this one's kind of just been designed to have some efficient interaction, but not the most optimal. Okay, so we'll go through the deck. So first up is the combo. So it's a Curiosity Combo deck. So this is an enchantment. So you'll just attach this to Niv-Mizzet. Whenever you do damage, you'll draw a card, and when you draw a card, you do damage with Niv-Mizzet. So, and that will just continuously go. Now, be mindful, this is a May trigger, so you don't have to draw those cards if you don't want. So when you start getting down to the bottom of your deck, you might play some cards that will put, you know, your hand and graveyard back into your library, for instance, and continue on through that cycle. So just be vigilant. If you can't take everyone out, you may need to shuffle things back in. Asphidiani, this same thing, except it has flash, which is sometimes nice. Yeah, you doing it on the end step so that your opponents don't know is really great. Okay, so draw. Lots of draw in this deck. Lots of cheap cantrip style effects where we're drawing cards and we're casting instants and sorceries. So first up is Brainstorm. Great. Just this one will trigger 3 times, as well as triggering from the instant. So fantastic. Faceless Looting, another one. This is essentially a double spell with its flashback. Great, drawing cards. Gitaxian Probe, this is free. You can pay 2 life for this one. So sometimes if I just want to get some value off Niv-Mizzet, turn 6, play Niv-Mizzet, then Gitaxian Probe, just so I can guarantee some value. Yep. Opt, great. Scry, draw a card. Ponder, fantastic. Preordain, great. All these effects are very similar. Serum Visions, not as good as Preordain, but still draw the card and I'm casting instant sorcery. And Sleight of Hand, also just to get cards into my hand. So those are all the 1 mana ones. You want a lot of them so that you can start getting that value. Expressive Iteration is a new one from Strixhaven. I've actually really been enjoying this. Just 2 mana. You don't usually play this on turn 2. You'll play it on a subsequent turn where you can use the exile portion of this to actually exile a land that then you can play. So essentially, you know, drawing yourself 2 for 2 mana, which is great. Prismario Command. I had Izzet Charm in this spot. I've been testing Prismario Command from the Strixhaven set. I really like the fact that, okay, it's 1 extra mana, but you get 2 options. One of those options being a treasure token, which is important so that I can tap and sack that for a colored mana for later for Niv-Mizzet. So I actually found the treasure token to be really valuable. And then drawing cards, discarding 2 cards is usually a default, or get rid of an artifact. The 2 damage generally isn't much. Frantic Search, great. It's practically free. So you're going to be casting instant sorcery, you're going to be drawing cards, and then you're going to untap lands to then play more spells. It's great. Saloon Division, another great one. I get to look really deep into my deck, but it's also a land on the other side. Great. Valakut Awakening, same reason. I get to draw cards. It's an instant and sorcery, and it's also a land on the other side. Fact or Fiction, one of my loves. Just love just making my opponent squirm with the decision making. So really good. Expansion Explosion. This one's it's great. It's cheap. Early interaction if I want to copy someone's cultivate maybe, or something like that, or at the end, with a big explosion. I normally don't have a lot of mana just sitting around for an explosion, but it is there. But the copy is really where it's at. But flexibility is great. Dig through time. Another one, I'm putting in cheap 1 mana instant sorceries in the graveyard, so I generally have enough to delve. And you just get to look really deep. It's also instant speed. Treasure Cruise, same thing. Drawing cards, casting instant sorcery. Have plenty to delve. Usually just 1 mana. So now some non-instant sorcery draw. You do want to avoid, having too many of them, but I have been playing with Archmage Emeritus, and I've really, really been enjoying. It's a little bit expensive at 4 mana, but essentially you just treat it as an enchantment. I'm going to be casting a lot of instants and sorcery, so I can get this down first, and then instant sorcery, I'm going to be drawing a lot of cards. So I've actually really enjoyed this. And then Teferi's Ageless Insight. This is another one that I wasn't really a fan of at the start, but once I kind of gave it a test, it being not an instant and sorcery, obviously, but I gave it a test, and I'm like, oh wow, I was actually really, really liking this. So I have a lot of draw effects. Your Treasure Cruise is a 1 mana draw 6, so quite good. Just a little tutor. To solve the equation from Strixhaven, which is quite nice. Just generally flexible instance and sorcery tutor. It's okay. I used to have Merchant Scroll in this kind of spot. It's a little bit cheaper, but I found 3 mana is just fine. And Mystic Retrieval, just to get some value out of my graveyard. 4 mana for this effect is quite a lot, but it also has flashback, so it's essentially 2 spells, which I kind of like. I have a lot of discard card effects, so I'll just put this in the graveyard and I can flashback later when I need a spell. Okay, some wheels. So with Niv-Mizzet, wheeling is really great. You're going to draw a full 7. You're going to deal all that damage. So really good. Wheel of Misfortune, I've quite liked. I generally find that there's always somebody at the table that doesn't want to wheel. So they'll choose 0, for instance. So you can normally go with a low enough number. I found that somewhere like 3 usually gets it. So that's great. Really enjoy this one. Windfall, classic. Someone always has a handful of cards. So Windfall's great. Reforge the Soul. It's a little expensive at 5 mana, but if you can miracle it with like Brainstorm, for instance, or just get it off the top, 2 mana for this effect, really great. Time Reversal. Now these are one of the ones that can shuffle things back from your graveyard and your hand into your library. So you do want these kind of effects because you're essentially only doing 1 damage to everyone per draw. So per instant or sorcery or draw. So you want some of this effect because you need to do essentially maybe 120 damage. Now some people will get damage throughout the game, but then you always have that player that's the life game player or something like that where it's too difficult. So having a second go at your library, really great. And Echoes of Eons, same thing. 6 mana is quite a lot, but it's great if you're trying to end the game. But flashback, Time Twister's really, really good. Okay, some counters. So this package that I've got here, I've got a few counters. Are really just to protect Niv-Mizzet. I really want to kind of keep Niv-Mizzet around so I can keep getting that value. So it is really around designed to keep Niv-Mizzet around. Now, you can put any kind of counterspell package that you want here. I've gone with ones that are what I believe to be the most efficient ones without essentially being free. Because then that would kind of increase the power level that I was kind of not looking for. So Stubborn Denial, it's essentially negate. You want to play this with your Niv-Mizzet. You're going to trigger Niv-Mizzet off that, which is great, but essentially it's going to be a 1 mana negate because you will always meet Ferocity with Niv-Mizzet. So that's great. Swan Song, very similar thing. It's just 1 mana. Hits instant sorceries, enchantments. Instant sorceries, they're often the things that will go after your Niv-Mizzet that you can counter. So that's really good, and you don't really care about the bird. Arcane Denial, another one. This is also great because we get to draw, which is good. Counterspell, classic, 2 mana. Delay is another one that I've quite liked. It's also another counter target spell, so it can counter anything. And the 3 turns, or the suspend is not really too relevant. And if it's a counter spell that you're countering, well, that's not really going to be relevant in the future. So it's quite nice. I like this one. Narset's Reversal. I can copy something of my opponent's if it's kind of game ending, expropriate or something like that, and then flip the table essentially. Okay, some removal. So outside of the counters, I've just got some board removal. So first is Rapid Hybridization. You don't care about the token, but it's nice to destroy any creature. Vandal Blast, fantastic. There's always artifact decks. Everyone's running at some kind of artifacts mostly. So it's great and it has Overload. Reality Shift, so you're exiling, which is quite nice, and the Manifest, it might not be a creature, so just great value. Resculpt is another new one I'm trying. I used to have like a Foretell package in here, but it was just okay. So I'm trying this out. It's nice and cheap. So 2 mana to exile a creature or an artifact, fantastic. And the 4/4 token is just whatever. We don't care about that. Chaos Warp, another one's just kind of get rid of any permanent, so it's really nice. And they might not even flip over permanent, which is fantastic. Okay, so board wipes, Chain Reaction. I put Chain Reaction in a lot of my kind of red budgety decks. I find it's just a nice 4 mana, kind of kills most things. X will be quite large, but you don't get indestructible or things with protection or whatever. And then Blasphemous Acts, this one's just a lot better. Pretty much also the same thing. Not really going to get indestructible or protection creatures, but it's going to get a lot of things. So yeah. Well, these ones are the instant sorcery reducers, or the things that will kind of give me some extra mana based off that. So a lot of my spells will be 1 generic and something, especially like with those counter spells and things like that. So you will get some value out of this 1 less instant and sorcery. So that's great. And you do have a few counters, so sometimes the trigger comes in handy, but it's just nice and cheap and early. Same with Electromancer. Nice, cheap, get it down early if you can. Bergie's another one I really liked. Essentially giving you a mana when you cast a spell. So that's going to be great. And the Boast is not actually relevant. And it's also double-sided, so the Horn is also actually decent. But Bergie's quite nice for the mana. Stormkiln Artist, another new one. It's going to get +1/+0 for each artifact. We don't really care. I'm not really attacking with this thing. The fact is, when I'm casting instants and sorceries, I'm getting a treasure. And those treasures I want to keep for either casting Niv-Mizzet or keeping them around for a counter when Niv-Mizzet is around, so that I can start getting that value. Okay, some payoffs for these instants and sorceries. So Finale of Promise. It's great. It's super. It can be super cheap. I've got a lot of 1 mana instants and sorceries, and the important thing is that you are casting these copies. I've never gone X is 10, but it's just great to just get some of that some value from those spells that you've already cast. Aria Flame, one of my loves as well. So there is a bit of a downside that your opponents will get some life, but if you can get this down early and protect it, then it's going to be doing a lot of damage. And you want to get people down into the 20s for when Niv-Mizzet comes out and you can combo off. But if they remove this, it's going to feel bad. I got a snipe, just great value, 3 mana, and it just deals 2 every time I cast an instant sorcery, so great. Mizzet's Mastery, another great payoff. Again, getting that payoff from cards that you've already cast, so and that you are casting those copies, which again is important, so that you can get your Niv-Mizzet trigger, but you can get 10 spells off this, which is great. Okay, so some tokens, because we're casting a lot of instant sorceries, there's a lot of tokens that come into play. I do find that I generally don't have a very big board of permanents, so the tokens can be really important to help protect. Niv-Mizzet does gain a lot of hate from the table, so just be wary, because they do know that Niv-Mizzet is quite a powerful commander just by itself. So I like having tokens just to provide some blockers. So nice and cheap, Young Pyromancer, Saheeli Sublime Artificer. Another one's just relatively cheap, just get those tokens down. I have been thinking about putting Galazeth Prismari into this deck, and this would kind of help suit that. So that's another one I've been thinking about. Talran Sky Summoner gives me some flying blockers, which is nice. Docent of Perfection. This one, it's a little bit more expensive, but it is going to be creating those wizards. You only need 3 wizards to flip it, and then those wizards become Delver of Secrets. And Niv-Mizzet is also a wizard, so that's great. So you only really need 2. A lot of the creatures are either wizards or shamans, so you can meet this quite well, and then you're essentially spitting out Delver of Secrets, which I love, but not in Commander. Metallurgic Summonings, very similar thing. I'm just casting heaps of instant sorceries, and you can sometimes get the exile effect if the game's running quite late, and the boards are quite stalled. You can try and go for that as well. Saheeli Sublime Artificer kind of helps with this, as well as your Mana Rocks. And then Locust God, the probably one of the best ones. So when I draw a card, which I'm going to be doing a lot, I'm going to get insect tokens. So and this one just kind of keeps them coming back. Okay, ramp package, classic Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Felwar Stone, Fire Diamond. Now I do have some of these tapped Mana Rocks. I've been trying to keep my Mana Rocks cheap so I can start playing bigger spells on turns 3 and 4. So I have got these tapped ones. Plus you do want to make sure that your Mana Rocks are producing colored mana, because every non-colored mana source will be a turn further away from Niv-Mizzet. So in order to kind of help with that, I've gone with the diamonds, but you could have Commander's Spheres or Ignits and stuff like that that can go in this place as well, but I want to have as cheap as possible. Izzet Signet, Sky Diamond, the other diamond. Star Compass, another one that comes in tap. It's 2 mana, so it's as cheap as I possibly can get, and it produces any color basic, which I'm a 2-color deck, so I have plenty of basics. And Talisman of Creativity. So although I am trying to minimize the amount of 3 and up Mana Rocks, I do have a couple. So one includes Midnight Clock. Midnight Clock I found to be just really, really nice. The fact that it triggers every upkeep, so it will go off eventually, and in only a few turns. It does tap for colored mana, which is nice. But kind of, I find that after a few turns that my hand can be empty, and having the draw 7 just comes in handy. Gilded Lotus, another one. So this one's probably finding less play nowadays, but I really like the fact that I can get this down on 5. Then I play Niv-Mizzet on my next turn and have access to 9 mana. So I play Niv-Mizzet and have something there to counter or remove or play an instant and sorcery, so I get some value. Sometimes I'll play Niv-Mizzet on 6 and it just gets taken out and I don't really get a lot of value. But if I can Gilded Lotus, then play Niv-Mizzet, I'll still have mana to hold up to play a counter spell, which means I'm going to get a trigger off that, probably a trigger off whatever they're using to destroy Niv-Mizzet, and then they have to do another spell. So really, really great. Lands, it's two-color decks, so lands are pretty, I guess, generic. I am in Izzet colors, so there's not that many good dual lands. So Cascade Bluffs, nice to filter out, especially when I need 3 blue, 3 red. Castle Vantress, just nice scry. Command Tower, classic. Fabled Passage, also great. 4 lands, I get to search for a basic. It's good because I've got Brainstorm. Fiery Islet, another one, and it also draws a card, so if I really need to and I need to get that Niv-Mizzet trigger, I can go for it. Forgotten Cave, cycles, so draws a card, so for Niv-Mizzet. Frostboil Snarl, a new one I've added in. I have plenty of basics in this deck, so I can reveal, and sometimes just having that tap land is just fine. But yeah, it can come in untapped, so I think these are a bit better than, say, Guildgate or something. But you don't have that many good options for duels. So, Lonely Sandbar, same thing. Cycles, draw a card. Mystic Sanctuary, I got plenty of islands in this deck, so getting some of that graveyard value is great. Prismatic Vista, another fetch for Brainstorm. Relic of Terra. So, you do need to be careful about the amount of non-colored mana sources that you have, just like with your mana rocks. This is the only non-color mana source that I have. And the fact is just if I'm pinging with Niv-Mizzet and I'm not going to make it, I can just have a large hand, or sometimes you're just getting a large hand just from the Niv-Mizzet triggers. So it's a bit win more, but it's nice to just have a bit of that security. Riverglide Pathway, so it taps for blue and taps for red on the other side. Scalding Tarn, great for Brainstorm. Shivan Reef, another one, just, need that jewel. Steam Vents, great. Sulphur Falls, great. Temple Epiphany, comes in tap, but you get the scry one, so it's okay. Training Center, you'll normally have 2 or more opponents, which is great. And then Mountains and Islands. So yeah. That's my Niv-Mizzet Parun deck. Lots of fun if you like slinging spells and drawing cards. I definitely recommend. Thanks for watching.